Hello everybody, Alan Robson with you. Behind the camera we have the legend who is Hollywood McShane. Now, today we've got a slightly different show to normal. Is it a grizzly trail? Kind of. Is it a ghost hunt? Kind of. It's a lot of kind ofs that will become its own thing. And I'm doing this because of a man called Ian. This is where he was born and bred. He loves the place. He says there's no stories at all. As soon as he said that, it was kind of like, oh, but I bet there are. And I found a whole batch. A lot of pagan history, an awful lot of pagan history here. The centre of the village to this day has a massive festival on Midsummer's Eve called the Baal Fire. Not a fiery Baal, like we would say it up in this part of the world. Baal with two ears. A Viking god of fire. Baal. Now, if you go back to traditional Baal fires all over Scandinavia and wherever the Vikings took control of, part of the ceremony is leaping over the fire, leaping over the flames, and laughing and thinking, I've survived the god of fire. Usually, in villages, especially in the northern half of Britain, lots of other pagan festivals also happened in this village. Not so much recently, but hundreds of years ago, they used to dance around the maypole. The maypole, of course, is a giant phallus, and everybody dancing around it wants fertility for the soil. They want their women to be pregnant. They want to have lots of children so there's more people to work on the farms. All attached to that. When they got married, they would hand fast one another, put their hands out and place rope across it so that they were together forever. Or they'd jump over the broomstick, for heaven's sake, in this part of the world. Now, to me, I think it's wonderful. But have you guessed where I am yet? Well, so far you've seen a field. But this is a field that used to be a wood. And it used to be a wood regularly housing mobs of up to 100 horsemen that were border reavers. The reavers ripped this place to pieces, and I've got lots and lots of stories about that. Because I'm in a place called Whalton. Whalton in Northumberland. You might know it better because a lot of you will have driven through it, especially if you're kind of Morpeth, Alnwick way. Whalton, little Whalton. And when Ian said, can't be any stories there, well, let's find the stories that are here. And I think you'll like this a lot. The first story that I have to you is about a man who was placed at the church here. He had one favourite spot in all the world, and it was at the bottom of the cemetery of the church where he worked. The church where he worked was named after somebody closely connected with Jesus, because this particular cleric was a Knights Templar. Not back in the 1600s, because the Knights Templars exist today. He was a modern Knights Templar. Now, the Knights Templars, of course, anybody that's watched the Da Vinci Code will know the Knights Templars were the people that were defending the family of Jesus, who he married Mary Magdalene, Jesus, had children, their children had children, whose children had children and children, and their modern day ancestors, as far as we know, as far as the Knights Templars declare, live in France in a place called Aix-en-Provence. I've actually been there. One of our Alien Jesus shows involved us travelling there. Amazing, amazing place. But maybe the place that this Knights Templar was visiting is something that's literally, I mean literally, on our doorstep. Just walk this way. In fact, Tony, you know where we're heading, so take it away. This is an amazing, amazing tale. A descendant of the Knights Templars, he became canon and prior of Newcastle upon Tyne. He was 83 when he died in 1910. A provincial prior, the Earl of Euston. He was declared that at the Masonic Hall in Granger Street, Newcastle. In 1893, he said that here, just south of the church, and this is just south of the church. I don't know whether you can see the church through the trees, but there it is. There's a great big church that we'll be visiting a little bit later on. Don't know whether you can see it. And he said his favourite place in all the world was just south of the church, here. And it was here that he saw the spirit of a knight in armour showed itself to him. And John Walker of Whalton, the rector of Whalton, told everybody what he'd seen. Not a single soul believed him. He said it was a Templar. And he pointed to that church that I've just pointed to. And he said that he believed that the Templar is housed in the cemetery there. Now, I've had a look on the various places that you look to see whether famous people are buried anywhere, and there's no sign whatsoever that there was a Knights Templar. Did you hear that? That's a woman wailing. Did you hear that?
Oh, yeah.
That was clear as day. But he believes a Knights Templar came back to Britain and is buried in the church ground. Now, if that happened, it happened hundreds and hundreds of years ago. But this church has been here for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. And look at the darkness that we're walking into. I mean, we could go up the path, which I think is presumably safer. We will be coming back down here because we have to come and see if we can seek out a Knights Templar. And it's not a huge cemetery. And it looks like many of the graves here are more modern than anything else. But to hear a woman wailing from a cemetery before we even start, I'm sorry, but that's pretty damn cool. Even the trees look spooky, don't they? And there's the church at the far end. Look at that. That is, if you had to put a face to a Norman church, it would be that. And it's been here since the 1100s. Amazing. But we'll get to this a little bit later on. But I'm fascinated. To be honest, I'm kind of dying to get in there because of that noise we just heard, because that was kind of freaky. This whole place used to belong to a man called Robert de Cramerville. King John took it off him because he failed to pay his taxes. And you know, we talk about Jesus, Mary and Mary Magdalene. If ever you are going to become a rector of a church, if you're a Knights Templar, you'd want to represent the woman who was the matriarch of the family. Look at this, how you just want to get among it, don't you? Just a beautiful, beautiful. Look at those crosses on the headstones as well, and the shadows that they cast. And that's what I want you to watch out for. watch out for anything moving, any shadows, because just because we're not actually in amongst it yet, and you can see it's not large by any stretch. But Robert de Cramerville, King John, took the entire town, or village as I suppose you will find, to pay his taxes, gave it to the Fitzrogers, and then when Longshanks came about in this part of the world chasing William Wallace, the Whalton farmers of the day were tired of attacks by the Scots. They were equally unhappy about the English coming up and butchering their livestock for food. And Wallace came through here when he came down to sack Morpeth. So talk about a place with no history at all. Well, I'm afraid not. I'm afraid there's an awful lot of history here, and we're going to wade right into it. Now, the spirit that walk... Oh, listen. Did you hear that howl again? Like a... What? Did you hear it or not?
Yeah, that one.
I was talking.
The other one.
I was talking, so I presumed.
Might be closer to you. Might be closer to you. With the mic on you, so.
Yeah, hopefully we got it. It's a very, very old town, and the people who live here are lovely. They look after it beautifully, and I must admit I have to thank Whalton, because the pub that we'll be going past, the Beresford Arms here, one Christmas when I was on my own, nobody with me, in between waves, down at my lowest ebb, Christmas Day I came and had my dinner here. I was just going past it, driving around aimlessly, as you do when you're on your tour, and I saw they were serving dinners on Christmas Day, so I pulled in. I said, "You got room for one more?" And they said, "Oh, we're fully booked." I said, "It's just one, no." And she went, "Well, if you don't mind sitting at that table," there was a raggy table next to a door, "I'll have it." And I had a lovely Christmas dinner, and it made me Christmas. So I'm very grateful to Whalton. At the time I was living in Morpeth. But as you can see from the buildings here about, a lot of them have been here a very long time. The thing that, we talk about looking for spirit, and we will, because we're heading back there a little bit later. We're doing a grand circle with amazing stories in all directions. Now, the car park we've just been at, I'm going to let you in on a secret. One of the reasons that Whalton went on the list, yes, it was because of Ian, but when I started looking in my Whalton file, because I got files about most places around the north and other parts of planet Earth, I am an anorak in that regard. There's a ghost story from the car park. It's not even a car park. The little bit of ground outside the church where you're not supposed to park, certainly not during the day. Somebody was sitting in that car park and they saw a ghost. But the ghost was in their rear view mirror from that car park. So Ian, and the fact that I found that story, and there's a second story from somebody that called in the radio show that I've got on tape somewhere that I'll tell you about once we get a little bit further on. So we're going to go and maybe look in a rear view mirror down there from the car park and see, can we replicate, what's your step, Tony? So we can replicate a little bit of the history here. Now, along here, look at these buildings, beautiful. And you can see the history in them where windows once were. Fantastic place. Now, to all intents and purposes, Whalton's just a through road. It's just a road that goes through. We'll be looking at the houses on that side soon enough, and people defending their property with a nice hedge over here, and you can't blame them. In the distance you can see the Beresford. And when you are on your Todd and you want somewhere to get something to eat and just chill down on. It looks as friendly now as it ever did. Now this is Whalton Village Hall, and it's open. Whalton Village Hall. Now there's a story about Whalton Village Hall, but I shall tell it a little bit later on, but just remember that you've seen it. It's a story about, there are certain names that are invariably attached to Whalton. Ogle is one. There's a village called Ogle named after the same family. Fenwicks, a lot of Fenwicks here. Nortons, good few Nortons. So there's a lot of names that people in the village will absolutely know. And one of those families, there's some say a ghost story about. It's not so much a ghost story, it's kind of a sad story about the military, but we'll get to that soon. But it involves coming here because at one time, Whalton Village Hall apparently during the Second World War put beers on. You know, they started to get a few drinks in, and the village hall to support the troops, and so people would sign up to join the army here, the Navy or the Air Force. A lot of the village halls around Britain did it at the time, and because it was serving beers when this particular young man went off to war to join the RAF, flying biplanes for heaven's sake, his last abiding memory that he ever put in a letter was about Whalton Village Hall. So, but before we get to that, we've got to come, you see where those signs are, Tony? Yeah. Those bright yellow signs. We could keep walking and we'd just be on this main sway of road that cuts through Whalton. Berkeley Terrace. And it is kind of what it says on the box, Whalton. It's Merry England. It is. Oh, look at that. I don't know what they've got in the window there. I don't know whether you can do it without looking like you're peeping Tommen. But it just looks like a figure in the window. And we're going up there because there's stories in all directions. But the place we need to be is a road that cuts up, that takes you to another place, because this tiny little village, you know, that Ian said has no stories at all, is connected to probably, there it is, probably the most famous witch in all of Northumberland. And a place where her figure has been seen, granted not in recent years, but in previous years. See how quiet it is. This is a main road, for heaven's sake. On saying that now, we'd be hit by a speeding vehicle. I know, it's just, yeah, yeah. He's coming down this way as well. Careful, car. And round he goes. There. Now we're going up here a little bit. Did you hear that? Uh-huh. Giggling. That's quite cool. Meldon, the Dyke Nook up here. Now, it's down this road, Meg of Meldon. Now, Margaret Selby was her name. She was a witch. But, you know when you have this picture of a witch? You know, the black hats and the dodgy teeth and the craggy nose with a big boil on it. She was a rich woman. She was richer than her husband, who was one of the Fenwicks. She brought more money into the marriage than he did. And she used to come down to Whalton, because we know Mr. Fenwick, you want to walk this, Tony. We know that Mr. Fenwick got all of his horses shod here. Margaret Selby held meetings in Whalton. She lived 2 miles up this road, travelling down in carriages. She married Sir William Fenwick, a Civil War hero, even though he was poorer than she was, which certainly wasn't the done thing at the time. And she's been seen at Newminster Abbey where she's buried. We did Newminster, didn't we, Tony? Well, hang on, you probably need my torch more than anything. Now, there's a stone coffin. There's a stone coffin at Newminster that we probably filmed when we were there, because we were only there within the last year. You know that church-like place in the middle of the grounds? We walked through the rugby pitches and what have you. Her ghost is seen sitting next to a stone coffin that's above ground on Newminster. And then I typed in Meg of Meldon's ghost, and it linked me to a pagan chronicle. So I then went on to the pagan chronicles and found Meg of Meldon used to walk the road down to Whalton. Dong! This road. Meg of Meldon walked this road down to Whalton. Now, why would she walk at all when she's wealthy and, you know, the crinolines and all the rest of it? Well, who knows? Can we? Oh, I'm sorry, but I'm fascinated with nooks and crannies. Oh, it's just steps into a house. So, the one thing, we don't know whereabouts on the road, we could keep going forever. But what we do know is, this area, down into Whalton, Meg of Meldon was said to be seen heading into Whalton wearing a grey shroud. And she was followed by the locals. Now, oh, you hearing giggles again?
Yeah. Strange, that.
Especially when everything else is so quiet.
There's a witch.
Oh, could be somebody out being tickled just for us. Why do you think ordinary people would follow Meg of Meldon around? Now remember, you just spun around. Did you feel it too?
I just felt, oh, I heard something, but...
There was something behind us, I know.
Yeah.
I got that too. Once the car's gone, you just spun your head round, and I was thinking, something just kind of went just behind me, almost like...
You just want to turn around.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, look around is what I got. But the reason why people followed Meg of Meldon is she didn't trust banks. A lot of us kind of share that. Don't trust banks. Meg of Meldon kept all of her money in cash around the estate she lived on with her husband, Sir Fenwick. Now, what she also did, being pagan and believing in nature, she said that she would rather trust nature with her money than people. So everywhere that Meg of Meldon went, she carried silk pouches and satin pouches full of riches, not just money, jewels, jewellery. And what she'd do is she would find a tree. Now, around those times, this was all trees. There's still trees here. She would find a tree, and around the roots, she would dig a little hole, push what she described as her cash, not cash as cash money, C-A-S-H, her cash, C-A-C-H-E, put her cash of wealthy belongings under a tree. Now, when she died, they searched the mansion where she lived, the carriages, and they found no money at all. When they searched the garden, they found thousands and thousands of pounds, worth millions today. And that's just the ones that she hid on the ground where she lived. She came down here all the time, and people would follow her because they knew. Sometimes following, you know that noise we heard when we spun around?
Yeah.
They would follow Meg from Meldon, but not let her see that they were following, because they wanted to see which tree she dug to put her cache of jewellery and and valuables. And it was said that on 2 occasions, people found a cache of her belongings and became rich. They had enough money in that cache to buy a house and a farm and animals. And so Meg of Meldon, this witchy Esmeralda looking kind of Walt Disney witch, she wasn't. She was a staggeringly affluent and powerful woman. But she believed in nature and she trusted it with everything that she had. So there's other stories, you know, so many, Ian, so many stories. Meg from Meldon, there's a statue of Meg's husband up at the hall. And it says that he got very antagonized by people who would keep telling Fenwick that you're only surviving because of your wife's money. It's only because your wife's rich. And Fenwick hated that. Now he's got a statue up there, and it's said that if you stand in front of the statue and you mention Meg of Meldon, using her witch name rather than Lady Margaret Selby, who became Lady Margaret Fenwick, if you say Meg of Meldon to the statue is supposed to roll its eyes like, I love the idea that it would. Right, just when you see the sign Meldon, if you get the chance, just go. You're only a few miles away from Bowlam Lake, and we've done Bowlam as well, haven't we?
Yeah,
It's one of the few that we got chased out after we'd done it.
Yeah, I remember.
And here we are, the warm and attractive Beresford Arms. Now there's a flag somewhere on this building, or there always was. Like I think they've changed the image. There used to be a sign with a Latin saying on here, and the saying was "nothing without the cross." Now this place was put together in the early 1900s from a thatched house. Lord Deasy's helped create the pub, and the Beresfords were related to Lord Deasy's. It's kind of a weird thing, Tony, the whole story, because some people were away and they found a portrait of a man, and when they brought it back here to England, it was of a man called Beresford, so they named the pub the Beresford Arms. And then they discovered that the man who helped build the pub was related to Lord Deasy's. So we're coming up here at the stables, Tony. Pub of the Year 2024 Gold Award, Northeast Tourism Award. Congratulations, and I'm not surprised, because it is pretty damn good. Yeah, getting it. Now, you know, I mentioned that hall before. One of the stablemen who worked in the stables here in Whalton was Douglas Spence. He ran the stables and the smithy. His son, John Joseph Spence, born here in Whalton in 1895, joined the RAF in 1915, flew biplanes. He took off in his Air Corps DH-1 fighter over the Somme. He got raked with machine gun fire and crashed. He sent a letter to his dad in 1917. This is the stable block, Tony. I know it's kind of like a new version of it, but this is it. And there used to be, apparently, not just stables here, but blacksmith shops. I know it's been taken over by the pub over the years, but young Spence, that fighter pilot in the First World War, he sent a letter to his dad, and in the letter it said, "Once this war is over, I'll meet you in the welfare and we'll have a pint." And his dad didn't get the letter until his son had been dead for 7 weeks. So, anticlimactic, certainly. Sad, definitely. And some people say, and I don't know whether this is just people wanting to say something nice, some people told the family, the Spence family back then, the Spences were at that time well known here in Whalton. They told the parents, could have sworn I saw your son, he was going in the welfare. And they mentioned the welfare club. Now, whether he did or whether he didn't, I would love to think that they did. And there's another smithy who worked here. His name was Ray, R-E-A-Y. He worked here too, and no ghost stories attached to it, but this whole area of Whalton has its share of puzzles more than paranormal stuff, just things that you would never believe. For example, Ray, who was one of the blacksmiths here, William Ray, I believe his name was, he was out in a thunderstorm and he was carrying a scythe over his shoulder and he got struck by lightning and didn't die. And the scythe, when he fell after being hit, well, you would, hit the ground and almost petrified, you know, turned the wood of the scythe into carbon. And Ray's hands were badly damaged, but he went back like a sturdy Whaltonite would do to get back into his trade. Now, they've turned this into, I think, what's essentially restaurant now, and accommodation, I think. Sorry? Bedrooms, so accommodation. There you go, the stables, bedroom 6 or 7. So transformed it into a hotel. But if you can imagine the old buildings down here, you know, the smell of a forge and hammering and horseshoes and all that stuff from back in the day. I think it's amazing. I know there's a modern version of the whole thing, and I'm absolutely in agreement that you've got to make the most of what you got, and the people in the pub have done incredibly well, because it is a top visit. So, the Beresford Arms, you've got to do it justice, because it is that good. Right, I'll just walk around. I think it's a bit too claggy down there too. Now along here, we've got a batch more history. I'm waiting till whatever this is to pass. A lot of the buildings here that are on both sides have been here for hundreds of years, and it's wonderful to see. And you know the welfare hall that we mentioned, which is just literally over there, I do kind of want to believe that the young man came back from the war and went looking for his dad at the welfare. It's just, villages like this get overlooked to every degree. People ignore them, people drive through them, they don't think about them for a second, and they've all got great history. So head on this way. And we will get to our next destination, which is something else that's got an amazing background, amazing history. Haven't reached the welfare yet. One or two people about, but as you can tell, it's absolutely not busy tonight at all. So there it is, there's the welfare, village hall. Used to be known as the welfare. I think it's still on the title. So this is where he was said to be coming back to grab a pint with his dad after the war is over, as the old song goes. But it's on this side we've got to look at, because a lot of these properties haven't changed in the longest time. Some of them have been modernised, but when you see them through the trees like that, Tony, you can tell there's a good age to them, can't you? And along here we have a nationally famous building and a ghost story of a Scotsman. So head and look for a sign on the left hand side for Whalton Manor and Gardens. That's what we're looking for. And look at this. They're not phone boxes anymore, they're defibrillator boxes. Off you go, Joe. You see Ogle we mentioned before, there's the sign. Now, Whalton Manor and Gardens was from way back in the 1600s. It was designed by Sir Edward Lutyens and a woman called Gertrude Jekyll. Now written like Jekyll, like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, but ever since Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde came out, everybody called Jekyll, or everybody called Jekyll, called themselves Jekyll to avoid everybody thinking that they were violently schizophrenic. The house owner of Whalton Manor at one time, the lady's father attended the atom bomb tests on Christmas Island, died of cancer at the age of only 37. And you know, we're talking about some of those strange issues where, like being struck by lightning but you don't die. One of the owners was booked on a plane to travel down to London. He was distracted and missed his flight, and then discovered that his plane crashed and everybody on board the plane died. So incredible good luck, and also tragedy when a beloved member of the family who helped create the gardens and transform them into the magnificence that they are today lost her life in a horse accident. But you know, when people say there's no such thing as a story, my goodness, there's stories in spades here in Whalton, no question about it. So we're going to take a look at, I think it's the property you're walking past, Tony, if I'm honest. Yeah. No, it's this whole building though, I think. If you look at it, the old-fashioned windows there, Tony. Yeah. Can you see them here? Look. Oh, yeah. Fantastic looking. Oh, yeah. It might be separated now. Yeah, maybe. But I believe it's all of this, and I think the gardens are up and beyond. Just an amazing Whalton Manor. And Whalton wouldn't be Whalton without it. And the gardens you can go and visit and have a look around. But while we're in the middle of this street, this is where a ghost was seen, just here. And the story's all about this. It's kind of, to the best of my knowledge, this field is used as, well, like just for horses. To this day, don't know whether there's any horses on here, but look at the wall. I mean, when would anybody have the money to build even just a wall like this? Look how far it goes, for heaven's sake. It runs for miles and miles and miles. But the ghost story here is a cracker, and it's about a Scotsman. And it's an amazing little kind of extra tale that I didn't expect. In 1983, a caller rang me. Her name was Belinda from Morpeth. She was visiting this village with her cousin, and the cousin suggested, oh, it's a jogger.
What is it?
It's a jogger.
Oh, yeah.
Is it a jogger?
Yes.
Yeah. So, Belinda rang me, Belinda from Morpeth. Her and her cousin decided they were going to go for a meal somewhere, and they decided they were going to dine at the Beresford Arms, which is obviously the only thing lit further along the road that you can see. He's probably jogging for pepper steak as we're speaking. Now, while she was coming down this road, she was in the car with her cuz, looking forward to a bait, like you would, and she was coming down here in the car, and she saw a figure at the gate. This gate here, 1983, this gate, this very gate. Now, on the back of the gate, she actually, because she saw somebody, she braked, she slowed down around here. And at the gate, behind the gate, there was a man with a kilt. Nothing on his head, white shirt, band across the middle, kilt, stockings, that's all she could see. And she said to her, can you see him? Look at him. And the cousin said, yes, I can see him. She pulled over, thinking, well, I can't believe what I'm seeing. Well, hang on, that's a thought. I want to see stuff. Oh, you want to come and try this, Tony?
No.
Oh, does it open? Oh, hey, that's a thought. No, it's welded. I'm covered with spiders. But they slowed down, and when they looked back at the gate from where they were, because they were about, I don't know, about 5 or 10 feet away down this path, and it was then that they saw a dark figure in a kilt walking across the field. So they're in a car, they've stopped, they've looked back, there's nobody up. Now this is middle of the day. We're not talking about late in the evening where we are tonight, not remotely. And walking across the field was a figure. Don't know whether, should we try necromancy here? It's a bit open, but why not give it a go? And I do prefer to necromance when we're a little bit less public, but what the hell? What the hell? Is there anyone here? Is there anyone here? Any Scots here? Any Bonnie Scots? We'd love to hear from you. Tony, I'm not kidding. I just caught something like human-sized, and it was walking from roughly where the, oh, could it have been, you see the car lights, like red lights going past? There, you see them?
Yeah, kind of. The camera's not, doesn't...
Ah. Yeah, and I understand. Yeah.
Not good for the camera.
Sorry, mate. The thing was, that was the thing that I saw, and it was over there. If you want it clearly, just I noticed you can see car lights down there somehow. But I saw something moving between those trees. Was that you? Was that you in between those trees? Aye. Are you Scottish? What's your name? What's your name? Is there anyone there? Is anyone out there from Whalton? Come on, let's have a slow walk back down. You see this road here that we're on with this amazing gate is the main road into Whalton if you are coming from somewhere like Morpeth. In fact, I think it's the road we came in on, isn't it, Tony? Yeah. Now, this was the main road that the reavers took when the reavers came. And the reavers came here a lot because they were far enough away from Morpeth that was guarded, a walled, defended town. And Whalton had just houses, just settlements. I mean, originally back then, mainly just farms. And you see trees like this and you think, the stories that they'd have to tell. Amazing. So one there too. Oh, did you hear that? What was that? Oh, that's just a board. Just a board.
Sounded like money.
What?
Sounded like I heard money, like a coin drop.
Money?
Like over this way. It was on my left side.
I didn't hear anything.
I heard like a coin.
Just a singy board. Not seeing it if it is. Oh, could it be one of Meg of Meldon's secret cashiers? If we could see something, it'd be cool. Especially if it was a groat or something from back in the day. But look at these trees. How amazing is this? How many years has that been here? An awful lot of Whalton, and you've got to keep your eyes open when we're doing these things. See the things that we are not able to see because we're chatting and prattling on. But you've just... Oh, already? Oh, blimey. Now, you know, we're going back to the cemetery. We've got more stories to tell and an awful lot of tales about reavers. Now, whatever your surname is, I want you to pay great attention because the head of the biggest, strongest, toughest reaver clan, the Armstrongs, was from Whalton. And his surname might be your surname. To find out what it is, join us on the other side of the Great Divide. If you're not a supporter, thanks for coming with us. And how do they join us if they would love to? And you should love to.
Just hit the link in the video description and join on Facebook or YouTube. Then part 2s will be available for you.
Okay, so that's all you got to do. And it's £3 squidge. That's it. A month. And you get all of our previous shows too. So that's all there waiting for you. But the reavers got some tales. But let's... along here is one of the older parts of